Asterisk asterisk on another vehicle, the man said, asterisk asterisk. I understand you don't want to join your father and mother in the announcement at the square. But do we really need to lower the defenses like this? There isn't a single royal warrior here. The man with the beard replied, Don't worry, sir. This event is very well protected. Just me alone is enough, and I've reduced the number of people to make you more comfortable. Princess Serlin made it very clear that she doesn't want to be noticed. I also made it very clear that I didn't want to come. Yet here I am, he wondered. How can you still live in the royal family for so long? You should feel grateful to have me. Otherwise, you'd lock yourself in the library all day. I'm making you come because your friend stood you up, didn't she? Even if she did, you should leave her at home. Though you intended to marry her during the announcement, it's because of you. Your weapon is as big as this carriage, and it's still untrained, Prince Curtis. It's not safe, the girl said. She's been very obedient lately, hasn't she? The boy said loudly, Are you listening to me? Meanwhile, on Althal's side, Uncle Vincent was worried, not knowing what to do. He'd never seen Althal look like this before. If this continues, the kids will die. Uncle Vincent shouted, Quick, get out of here before someone gets seriously hurt. Hurry, they're just children. Althal, let it go for now. The important thing is whether your friend is okay first. Those people don't realize the severity of what's coming their way. They laughed mockingly and said, Look at the old man protecting the kid. How embarrassing. Their attitude made Uncle Vincent angry, and he said, You arrogant kids, I'm trying to protect you. Although called out, Uncle Vincent, step aside. Hearing this, Uncle Vincent turned pale. I'm sorry, kids, it's too late. You've made my nephew extremely angry. Although said, Rest in peace. The blue-haired boy stepped forward confidently with his staff and said, Let me handle this. The girl handed him the staff and said, Don't dirty your new uniform. He confidently turned back to the girl and said, Piece of cake, not knowing that trouble was looming. With just one strike, before he could even hit Althal, he was sent flying away. This caused the people with him to panic. Suddenly, a man said, Look at this arrogant bastard, sneaking attacks on others. I'll show you the difference between a commoner and a true noble trained in swordsmanship. Yes, be amazed by the Chinyon-bu skills passed down through generations of my family. Not bad, you can follow my movements. But Chinyon-bu is not something you can easily dodge. This fake sword swing is to distract you, so you won't be able to dodge. Altho calmly dodged his strikes, surprising him, and then Altho knocked him out with a single blow. It's pathetic that you can't strengthen your mana and make it so fragile. Perhaps I should just use my hand to end this game. The man, not yet scared, said, You arrogant commoner. Remember this. A finishing blow is more terrifying than any artificial weapon. With just one punch, I will show you your place in this world. But just by looking at Althal, he felt an overwhelming pressure that even his father didn't possess. Reassuring himself, he charged at Althal, but before he could strike, he was hit directly in the face by Althal, causing him immense pain. Infuriated, he shouted, How dare you? How dare you underestimate the hair of my family? Altho and his companions walked towards Uncle Vincent. The two were surprised, not understanding what was happening, when a girl approached, holding something that created small, beautiful ice crystals. At first, I thought he was just an ordinary boy, like my immature older brother or his peers. Living with him, I thought that way. But I don't understand why I can't take my eyes off him. That's right, he's different from others. Seeing this, the prince shouted, What's going on here? The group recognized the girl in the black dress as Princess Serlin and Prince Curtis. They immediately knelt down and apologized. We were just talking with these friends. We don't know why that commoner suddenly attacked us without any reason. The group blatantly lied. It was clear they had been bullying the short boy earlier. Now, when faced with the princess and the prince, they quickly changed their tune. The boy with glasses was surprised and shouted, What? The others continued, This is such an injustice. The princess, being smart, noticed something unusual and asked, If that's the case, then how do you explain the dwarf's injuries? The prince beside her also asked, Is that true? Altho thought, Foolish brother, how can you believe such words? He continued, Ha, that's not funny at all. The bodyguard accompanying the prince and princess shouted, You insolent one, how dare you speak like that to the Prince of Sapin? Altho grabbed the bodyguard's hand and said, "Sorry, I just have to bark back whenever I hear a dog barking." The bodyguard wondered, how is this kid so strong? Uncle Vincent bowed and said, "My nephew knows his mistake. Please forgive him. He only wanted to say that those kids are lying." The prince said, "Who are you if not Vincent? What are you doing here?" "I was on my way to the square to hear the king's grand speech, when I saw these ruffian kids bullying a poor child." They looked towards the injured boy. The prince, turning to the group, asked, "What's your name?" The boy answered, "My name is Remember, Your Highness, the eldest son of the Childen family." The prince realized the situation was getting more complicated. The boy must have used magic on the other's body. However, the Childen family had funded the royal family and the Xyrus Academy with a large amount of money. If something unfortunate happened to a Childen heir, what would happen? The princess said, "Remember, Childen, you have committed the crime of using magic in public." The prince said, "Luckily, no one was seriously injured, so if you agree, we can consider this matter resolved." Remember thought, "Of course. My father has poured so much money into the royal palace. Even the royal family wouldn't dare touch me." Altho asked, "Uncle Vincent, do you have the two-way information scroll? What are you planning to do with that?" Vincent asked. Remember thought, "Altho is an idiot. Who are you to contact the headmaster of the Xyrus Academy?" Vincent said, "I told you not to." Suddenly, there was a voice. "It's been a long time since I saw you, sir. I'm Altho." "Oh dear, Altho, is that you? It's been so long. I'm truly happy to see you. Are you well?" Everyone was puzzled, wondering why his tone had changed so suddenly. Altho said, "Uncle, expel Childen and his entire faction for bullying civilians and using dangerous magic within the city." "Wait, what are you suddenly saying? Expel Childen? But..." The other boy thought, "Yeah, right. This commoner, even if he's close to the headmaster, knows how much money my family has poured into the academy." Altho responded, "If you don't, I will withdraw my intention to enroll in the academy." "All right, those kids will be expelled," the headmaster said, leaving the group stunned. "Goodness, what have you done?" One of them exclaimed, "The academy just contacted us about the expulsion. Explain yourself." The prince then apologized for his earlier actions, saying, "I have brought shame upon myself as a prince." Altho replied, "I should be the one apologizing to you. I overreacted and misspoke." "No, I understand," the prince said. "Even if it's the Childen family, they should be expelled from the academy. No discrimination should exist anywhere on this continent." After saying this, the prince got into the carriage and sighed. What is going on? He wondered. The first time I met that kid Altho, I had a feeling he was strange. He's a peculiar one, but a good person nonetheless. Aren't you listening to me? The princess said, "Hey, let's have tea together sometime." Altho agreed. "Sure, see you at the academy." The prince then asked his bodyguard beside him, "Did you see what the princess just said?" The princess coldly remarked, "Just now." Continuing from the previous part, everyone proceeded to the square together. The younger sister patted the cheek of the bespectacled boy and asked why his face was swollen like that. The bespectacled boy chuckled. "Oh, this. It's nothing." Altho wondered how all these people would react when they found out about another continent. But what concerned him more was that the discovery of this continent was made by Gideon, using a space spinner and recording devices. They would only do that if they fear us or had some hidden motive. Was I right in helping Gideon find this new continent? Maybe it's for the best. If it really turns out to be an enemy, we can organize a preemptive strike. Altho appeared more distracted than usual. When asked, he replied, "Oh, it's nothing. Everything's fine, Mom." He smiled and reassured her. "So, I'll just pretend that you're thinking about normal 12-year-old things like any other mother," she said. She just wanted him to know that even though she was always worried about him, she would never pressure him into doing what she wanted. At that moment, he wished he could promise his mom that she didn't need to worry about him anymore. But he couldn't deceive her like that. He took her hands and said with a bright smile, "Thank you, Mom." Everyone around them felt joyful and watched as finally, what they had been waiting for had arrived. Hello to all humans, elves, and dwarves. I am Glader. Most of you know me as the King of Sapen. But today, I am not only speaking as a king of humans, but also as a representative of the entire continent of Gideon. I am standing here with the royalty of all three kingdoms on the surface of our beloved continent, who have gathered here for this memorable ceremony. Today marks the beginning of a new era for this continent that each of us calls home. Though many of you know the long-standing enmity that has existed between humans and elves, even dwarves were often only seen as business partners. However, that is not what we desire. We, the leaders, have had numerous meetings in recent years to try and unite our races. 2 years ago, we allowed members of all three races to become adventurers. It is heartwarming to see teams of humans, elves, and dwarves working together towards a common goal. Last year was another milestone when the Xyrus Academy welcomed students from the kingdoms of Elena and down. Now, a new generation of mages can make friends and create memories without worrying about outdated barriers. We all understand the difficulties some have in adjusting after these barriers of hatred. However, we hope everyone can let go of the past and all racial discrimination to think of a bigger picture. If not for yourselves, then for your children and the future of this continent. Another man stood up and said, "It is an honor for me to speak in front of those gathered here on this memorable day. I fully agree with the message King Glader has conveyed about the future of our continent. But despite our clear vision of this future, I must say that this continent is still full of mysteries. Right here on the land of Gideon, there are places so dangerous no one dares to explore. But if indeed there are mysteries and dangers still out there, then you are not hearing wrong. Citizens of Gideon, today we want to announce the evidence of the existence of another continent." Hearing this, all the citizens began to buzz with excitement and curiosity. Another continent? What does that have to do with us? Although anticipating a different reaction, the man continued his speech amidst the chaos. "Please, even we do not know much about it. We have many questions ourselves. What we do know is that out there lies a continent full of mysteries, challenges, and potential dangers. There is evidence. They have tried to reach out to us. However, it seems the current technology on both sides does not yet allow us to travel such distances." Another man spoke up, quieting the crowd. "As Angeli mentioned, we do not know much. However, in these uncertain times, we believe that cooperation and mutual support are the best paths forward for our continent and all of us. We must not harbor anger towards each other any longer. Our appearances may differ, our cultures may not be the same. But remember, we were all born on the continent of Gideon. We take pride in this and hope that future generations will feel the same. What about you?" The crowd began to murmur excitedly once more. The process of uniting the three races and multiple kingdoms would require much time and effort. But today, we will appoint 6 individuals. These are the people whom we, the royalty, trust. They are the bravest, most skilled, intelligent, and strong individuals among us. They will represent their respective races on a continental level. Their current mission is to protect and maintain peace in Gideon. They will work with us, the guardians of the continent, ensuring our home is safeguarded as we enter this exciting new era. These individuals will be known as the Lanters. Each Lanters will represent the hopes and dreams of our continent, not just for our kingdoms, but for the entire land. A servant brought forth a box, which the man then opened, revealing 6 golden rings. "Aliyah," he called, and a girl stepped forward to receive her ring. Next were Varay, Alfred, Aya, and Micah. Each received their ring, representing the 6 chosen. A young man with glasses, astonished, was named Baron, the family of Lucas. The man announced, "Lanters warriors, you are commanded to protect and bring honor to us. And to the mages out there, strive to become one of the 6 Lanters warriors in the future. Nothing can stand in your way." The warriors accepted their orders with determined expressions. The day of the announcement revealed a cold truth for all fell. Lucas, a stubborn and treacherous individual, had led to the deaths of most of their team. He used his family's power and connections to absolve himself of all guilt, although was warned that seeking revenge against Lucas was akin to suicide. For behind him stood his older brother, a powerful mage who had now become one of the 6 warriors of the continent. This complication made Alphal's plans more complex. But he had another, more pressing matter to attend to: his sister's birthday. His mother was helping him tie a bow on his collar. It was a bit heavy, but it would do. He knew he should head down to the party. As he said, "Let's go," his pet leaped onto him. He sighed and gently explained that the pet would have to stay in the room tonight. The pet looked dejected, although patted its head and softly said, Uncle Vincent warned me that some guests at Ellie's birthday party are here mainly to spy on me. I don't want to take any risks. But don't worry, I'll have lots of good food brought up for you." Hearing this, the pet's sad expression disappeared, and it eagerly asked, "Promise?" Although replied, "I promise." This made the pet excited and happy, and it gave him a high five. Ellie's birthday party was held on a beautiful full moon night. His family donned their finest and most elegant attire to welcome the guests. His mother playfully teased her daughter, saying, "Later, you should ask him for a dance." Ellie glanced over at Althal, who was holding a glass of wine and talking to a beautiful girl. "I'm about to enroll at Xyrus Academy," he said. "Maybe we could have lunch together sometime." But his joy was short-lived as he clumsily spilled wine on his white shirt, causing the girl to laugh. Althal, standing nearby, stiffened. His friend said, "Don't pretend you didn't see that." The awkwardness was interrupted by Althal's father descending the stairs, waving and calling out, "They're here! Let's get ready, everyone." Ellie's mother covered her eyes to create a surprise. Ellie protested, "I thought this was just a family party. Why am I wearing this cumbersome dress?" Her mother smiled and urged her to walk slowly. When Ellie opened her eyes, everyone shouted in unison, "Happy birthday, Ellie!" She was overjoyed, and the party unfolded with many exciting events. Before the celebration continued, her father spoke up. "I want to thank everyone here on behalf of my dear daughter for attending her birthday party. I've been blessed in many ways in my life, but nothing brings me more joy than seeing my beloved daughter and son share their first dance together." Hearing her father's words, Ellie was stunned. Her mother's friend whispered, "I didn't know Ellie and Althal would be dancing. Have they practiced?" Her mother laughed ominously and replied, "I'll kill him," then told her friend that they hadn't practiced at all. This casual remark from their father caused both women to be extremely upset. Ellie approached her mother, utterly confused. "What should I do, Mom? I don't know how to dance." Suddenly, a pair of hands extended towards her. "May I have the honor of this dance?" Although asked. Despite her surprise and curiosity, she took his hand. Her brother responded with a gentle smile. Seeing this, their father signaled for the music to start. As the instruments began playing a beautiful tune, Aldo took Ellie's hand and placed his other hand on her waist. His confidence made her feel less nervous. Despite having no prior practice, they moved in perfect harmony. Their mother and her friend watched in amazement. "I thought they hadn't practiced," her friend remarked. "They haven't," her mother confirmed, still in shock. The siblings danced so beautifully that all the party guests were left in awe. Although silently thanked his past life for those ballroom dancing lessons, which had finally paid off. He overheard one guest comment, "That was a sickeningly beautiful performance." Curious, he looked around and spotted the inventor he and Uncle Vincent had met recently. Tonight, the inventor was dressed much more formally. He held a glass of red wine and approached Althal, saying, "Can we talk for a moment?" Meanwhile, in another part of town, a car drove down a road with a girl sitting inside. Someone said to her, "I've heard you're quite close with Althal. Why not go and give his sister a gift?" She replied, "Althal's focus tonight should be on his sister. Besides, I'll see him at school soon enough." Back at the party, Althal and the inventor were about to speak. The inventor said, "Are you performing a comedy act now?" Althal glanced past him and said, "I hope you didn't come to disrupt my sister's party just to talk to me." His confident demeanor caught the attention of the surrounding girls. The man replied, "I did bring a gift for her. But anyway, the honor is mine to have the best inventor in the kingdom visit me, right? Don't be so sarcastic." The inventor chuckled. "I thought you'd want to know that the council has approved the design I reconstructed from your rough sketch, and construction is underway. The council, as you call it, is a bunch of self-appointed kings and queens who think they're still monarchs in their own nations." "Congratulations," Althal responded dryly. "I'm sure you're being handsomely rewarded. Money, fame, power, those things are meaningless to me. I seek something the council can't give." The inventor began, but was interrupted by a light tap on his shoulder. "Excuse me, Mr. Gideon, we admire your masterpieces so much." "We've heard about the magnificent ship you designed," someone interjected. Yes, I'm quite busy," Gideon replied, scanning the room for Althal. "Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back," he called out, before being swamped by questions from the admirers. "How did you come up with using monster ore as an energy source?" Is it true that the warship won't need any mana energy at all? Altho overheard this and smirked. Fame isn't meaningless, he thought. It always comes at a cost, sometimes a very high one. Holding his glass of wine, he looked out at the street and noticed the guests were beginning to leave. Just then, he heard someone call his name. Turning around, he saw a girl smiling and waving at him. She hurried over and bowed. I'm sorry for not greeting you sooner. I arrived late and wanted to congratulate your sister first. It's all right, he said gently, taking her hand. My parents always tell me how busy you are as the student council secretary. But never mind that, it's been a while, hasn't it, Lilia? She looked at him with a warm smile. Yes, it has. As they talked, she realized just how much taller he had grown. They quickly became engrossed in their conversation, sharing a range of emotions from joy to surprise. After some time, Alvo noticed that the shy girl who used to hide behind her parents and eat meals with the servants had matured. She seemed a bit wistful, as she mentioned wanting to show Alvo her secret places. Are you teasing me now? He asked playfully. Alvo found it difficult not to mention how much pressure he had about the future. From back then until now, doing exceptionally well in the prestigious Deccan School of Magic. You can't ignore the guys who keep sneaking glances at you while we're talking. You seem quite famous at school. She pointed towards the guys over there. Surprised, she raised both hands in a gesture of disagreement. What's that about? I still don't have a boyfriend, and most of the changes in my life are thanks to you. She pondered briefly before cheerfully adding, if that's the case, I'll try to accept whichever guy you introduce me to, even easier than Chu Vincent. She seemed somewhat disappointed with that statement, but reassured herself with a nervous laugh. Oh, all right then. Excuse me. She turned back to the feast. I'll borrow this guy for a bit. After the conversation and answering fans' questions about his masterpieces, the inventor sought out Althal to continue their interrupted conversation. The girl respectfully bowed her head. Master Gid, of course. She smiled at Althal and said, see you later, before returning to the older gentleman's table. He turned to Althal, noticing his newfound popularity. You seem quite proud, huh? You've made quite an impression on those ladies. The young girl also seemed quite taken with him just now. Taking a sip of red wine, he teased, you're quite a hit. Continuing, he said, the two of you seem well matched. What are you planning to do with her? Thanks to you, her life has changed. Her emotions aren't exactly love. It's more like gratitude. She hasn't realized it yet, but someday in the future, she'll understand that her current feelings are just the infatuation of a teenage girl towards her hero. With a mocking tone, he remarked on Althal's maturity in this situation, making him feel queasy. Never mind. You're not here just to give romantic advice, are you? What do you want to discuss then? Exactly as I said earlier, I want to use the money, fame, and power that the council has given me to acquire something I can't obtain elsewhere. Your knowledge. His eyes saddened as he handed Alvo the hand-drawn plans. I've reconsidered. I don't want to change how this world operates. Besides, this continent is fine without my interference. Surprised, he exclaimed. So you still have inventions capable of changing the world. Alvo felt helpless as he carefully selected what he wanted to hear. Ah, Gideon. Let me make it clear that I'm not here to satisfy your vanity. He paused to understand. If that's the case, how would you like to negotiate? I don't need world-changing inventions, but let me borrow your knowledge. In return, I'll provide you with any invention or goods you may need, he calmly replied. Well then, shall we seal the deal? And so, the two agreed on their terms. Following the agreement, Alvo entered his sister's room to find everyone still awake. His mother smiled, holding a dress in her hand. This is beautiful. It seems like you don't like dresses. Alvo was suddenly drawn to a different box. Oh, this looks interesting. Hearing this, everyone called out, Bring it here! Bring it here! She quickly opened it eagerly. Curious about whose gift it was, his mother asked, Who is this present from, dear? Uncertain, she replied, holding the card. Maybe Alina sent it. She must be tired of living with tea sets and dresses. This gift is from your sister to you, hoping you'll not only admire your brother but also strive to be like him. Hopefully, one day you'll become strong enough to stand by his side, she said. She was delighted as she opened the box to find a bow. When she saw it, there were numerous compliments made about its beauty. It's so beautiful, they said. Its design looks like that of a fairy, they said. Wondering who sent it, she asked. Could it be? She went to her brother, who held out his hand. "Where's your gift?" she asked. She extended her hand, holding his present, and handed the other box to their mother. "Oh, this one's for Mom," she recalled, revealing a necklace. "He said these would protect both of you when your father or son is not around," his wife said, amazed by its beauty. She exclaimed, "They're really beautiful. Where did you find them?" Chuckling lightly, he shook his head. "It saddens me to say, my dear, but there are only 2 necklaces like this on the entire continent." Taking the necklace, he placed it around his beloved sister's neck, wishing her a happy birthday. The next day, the employees were busy with various tasks. Among them, they used spray hoses on wooden barrels, their purpose unknown. Mr. Gideon invited Although to his invention workshop, though he didn't really need to bring the kid all the way here. Did the kid realize that no one except employees, including royalty, was allowed in this facility? Although poured himself a glass of water and replied, "Yes." He said it 8 times already, and I know he appreciates and admires it. Mr. Gideon also lifted his glass and poured a drink. "So, can you say that to your uncle's face? Because all I see is a dissatisfied guy, even a bit sad, quite hard to please when he keeps bothering me with each phase of this project. Don't you think it's a waste of communication paper?" The old man explained, "So those late-night calls can't bond a couple. Why not befriend someone your own age, old man? I've heard the kid's birthday just passed. Can't believe it's been over 4 months. Yes, time flies since Ellie's birthday. The kid's birthday is quite a festive occasion, isn't it? The kid wants to have a small party, just with the extended family. But I was quite surprised by that. Anyway, belated happy birthday," the kid said as the old man handed over a gift box. "What are you curious about?" He didn't even wrap it. The old man angrily grabbed it back. "I was just joking. Kid, you put the glass of water you were holding on the table, then opened the box. It was a string with 2 silver coins. Thank you for making it for me. Compare the effort the kid put into the steam system. This isn't worth it. But I'm quite curious why the kid wants to use it to hide, not just 1, but 2 elements. Don't tell me you're a mage proficient in these 4 elements." He finished, then drank the entire glass of water he was holding in his hand. "You put the ring on your finger." "Well, that's right," the old man said in surprise, spraying water in the mouth of the person next to him. "You're really a magician, aren't you? I mean, do you want to hide half of your elements? So why did you tell me?" Because the kid increasingly realizes that he's special, and the kid even got to eat long temple rice. The kid is so angry that he revealed the whole shocking story to me. It's like scratching it. "I'll ask for evidence here." You casually replied naturally, but the kid is quite impressive, even the design of the fast chip. Right by the hour, you've taken care of your child's education in a few days. This godlike ship will officially be in the water. As you left that workshop, you muttered to yourself, "This old man is really quick at work to be able to organize a team and build a whole steam-powered ship in just a few short months. If this new continent is truly the enemy, then I can't afford to slack off in my cultivation. With the ring he gave me, I should try to catch up with the elements of wind and earth, while fire and water are murmuring to themselves." Then you bumped into a man. "Sorry, I was a bit distracted," the man with dual strength said angrily. "Your eyes are under the skirt of 3 girls around you." He said, "Let the kid go." And that's right. I think you've drunk a lot. You helplessly think, "Why do I keep banging my head against these fools?" He continued loudly, "It would be wrong for a professor to let a wild kid run away. If your parents can't teach you, let me teach you." He took the hair tie off your head and said, "See, your hair isn't long enough for lesson 1. A true man will cut his hair short and must be as muscular as I am. Lesson 2. When apologizing to someone as eminent as me, you must kneel down." He used his hand to press your head down, but it didn't budge at all. He wondered why you didn't kneel down, although generously said, "Because you're quite drunk, sir, I'll accept this. But it's time for you to let go." You used force to push his hand away, causing him to fall backward, making the 2 frightened girls catch him so he wouldn't fall. He said with his hand, "You dare to talk to a professor at Xyrus Academy like that?" He said while holding the 2 beautiful girls in his arms. Although ignored his words and turned away, he stopped right there as if he knew magic. "But if you were also studying there, you should run away when I saw you. Because there I can tear you apart." You calmly tied your hair and said in a challenging tone, "I'm looking forward to it." Then you threw something yellow. The 2 girls next to the other guy asked, Isn't that his necklace? I can't see that kid anymore. Everything ended there. You walked home and opened the door. The younger sister and the animal ran quickly to you and happily said, "Hello, brother." But they didn't respond to the younger sister's words. You asked, "Where are Dad and Mom?" The girl got angry and said, "It's unfair, they're sitting in the living room with Alice." The two had a package from Xyrus Academy and then pulled her brother's hand towards everyone. He said with a smile, "My son is back." His cheerful four-eyed friend exclaimed, "Look, the uniform has arrived." His mother also handed him a similar box as he advanced towards him. From an orphan to a king, from a child to an adventurer, it seemed he was finally becoming a student alongside his other friends. They had been eagerly awaiting the enrollment day at Xyrus Academy. Although pondered, what more will this world teach me? Finally, the enrollment day arrived. Although was still half asleep when his four-eyed friend grabbed his ankles, saying, "Come on, Altho, wake up. Don't be late on your first day." Altho's pet creature under his pillow was equally indignant and pounced on his friend, causing quite a stir. In the midst of it, Altho managed to steal a few more minutes of sleep. After a while, he finally woke up. "Just give me 5 more minutes," he said as he got ready. His friend was surprised. "I can't believe it. You registered for the wizardry class at Xyrus Academy." "Yeah, why not?" Altho replied casually. "I've always wanted to learn more about magic theory, but I might also sign up for a few other classes. My whole semester won't revolve around it. I'm not much into combat like the other kids. Besides, I'll also join the mage combat classes. I know there are many academic wizards who have been defeated by combat wizards. Are you worried about me?" Altho chuckled. "Dream on. I'm worried about the students who might end up in the infirmary for underestimating you." "Haha. Don't worry. I'll be careful," he assured his friend. "All right, are you ready?" The two of them, along with their pets, headed down to the dining hall, afraid of being late for class. "Dad called us to breakfast. Hurry up, you two," his little sister whined. "It's not fair. I want to go to Xyrus Academy too, you know," she advised, "so don't be lazy anymore." Seeing his friend's face covered in wounds caused by Sylvie, gentle Alice kindly tended to his injuries. "Why don't you come over here and treat your friend?" she asked Sylvie, after you finished treating him. Altho's parents were having an unbelievable conversation. "Our little boy is going to enroll at Xyrus Academy," proudly exclaimed his father. "It seems like we've raised our darling well," his mother beamed. "What do you mean, we?" his father teased. "I guess the only time we've raised him is when he's gotten into trouble." "That's right, honey," she agreed warmly. Once breakfast was over, the carriage was ready to take them to school. The whole family went out to the gate, hugging each other to see Altho off to school. "I will visit home when I have time. Don't worry, Mom, Dad, and little sister," he said, turning to his sister and patting her head. "Be good and take care of Mom and Dad." "Are you still wearing the necklace I gave you?" he asked. His mother and sister raised the necklaces around their necks to reassure Altho. "And you, Dad?" he asked. "Aren't you going to say anything to me?" His father looked puzzled. "Aren't you going to say anything to your old man?" Altho smiled and replied, "Yes. Don't burn the house down while practicing, Dad." "You cheeky little brat," his father retorted. After a while on the road, they finally arrived at the academy. Looking at the scene, the academy gates were bustling with people coming to enroll. This made them feel happy and excited. Not knowing where to go, a man came to guide the new students. "Please line up in front of the central building to attend the mandatory opening ceremony," he instructed. Everyone followed his directions and moved to the mentioned place, lining up to confirm their names and classes. "Student Ellie, Combat Mage Class, Earth Element Magic," the announcer called. "Welcome, Student Altho, Academic Mage Class, Earth and Wind Elements." She was surprised to hear this and pointed at herself. "Is there a problem?" A cheerful four-eyed boy next to her nudged her. "She's quite surprised you're a 2-element mage." She shook her head. No, please go ahead." They proceeded to where the opening ceremony was about to take place. The four-eyed boy was amazed. "Wow, I didn't think it would be this crowded." It was indeed surprising, as there weren't many seats left. As they passed by, some students who had arrived earlier apologized. "Excuse me, I'm also a combat mage. Sorry for the inconvenience." The other students whispered, "Look, another weak academic bookworm. Excuse me, please let me through." Altho said with such a commanding presence that it made the student pale and politely raise his hands to let him pass. Please, go ahead. After finding seats, the four-eyed boy was cheerfully chatting with the nearby students, while Altho, with his hand on his chin, thought to himself, I forgot how noisy kids this age can be. Suddenly, a woman appeared on the stage. She snapped her fingers, making all the students incredibly surprised. Altho was intrigued. I knew she could use sound magic, but I didn't realize she was so skilled that she could cover this entire large building, he thought. I apologize for this rudeness, the woman said, but I don't like to raise my voice. It's not good for my throat, especially at my age. Allow me to welcome all of you, future leaders, students, and the strength of Gideon, to this humble academy. My name is Principal Goodsky. Although I feel this speech is quite long and probably very boring, I realize this year is very special. I am very proud to say that since the establishment of this academy, we have never had so many dwarves and elves attending as we do today. So, who better to welcome everyone than the students who will help guide and listen to everyone? Please give a round of applause for the members of the Student Council of Xyrus Academy. And with that, the students stepped out from behind the curtain, waving friendly greetings to everyone. The four-eyed boy was excited. Look, it's Lilia. Should we stir up some excitement for her? One student stepped out with such a commanding presence that it made all the students marvel, even the pet lying in Altho's lap. Wow, who is that? Someone exclaimed. Only Altho calmly smiled. It's been a while, Tessia. Everyone began to murmur, that's Princess Tessia, the one I was talking about. I heard she enrolled last year as Principal Goodsky's disciple. What? We've always known the principal never takes on disciples, but this proves she must be very talented. Moreover, she's so beautiful it's unfair. They say she's very cold and strict. Who cares about that? I wonder what I need to do to get her to notice me, even just once. Hello everyone, my name is Tessia, President of the Student Council. First of all, I would like to congratulate all of you for being accepted into the most prestigious academy for mages on this continent. As a first-year student like you, I was granted the privilege of observing the academy for a year. Alongside the lessons and friends in the academy, I also witnessed the discrimination against academic students that we are facing. If even the small differences in uniforms are enough to hinder and separate everyone, I truly worry about the consequences that racial differences will bring. Today, I stand here before you, the new generation of students, and I urge you all to abandon the prejudices of the old generation that have created hostilities among races. Just as the noble families came together to form the council, we should do something similar for the future of this continent. Altho's pet excitedly pointed towards the stage. Dad, Mom is down there. Should we go and greet her? Why is she my mother? Altho wondered aloud. Suddenly, a voice called out, Hey Altho, I think I'm in love. The four-eyed boy was gazing at the princess with infatuated eyes. Altho looked at him skeptically. Why are you looking at me like that? Because you've said the same thing since we walked to this building. Altho replied. Shut up, but she's different. Altho noticed that she had changed a bit. Haha, how can you tell how she has changed? Unless you know her, the same way you coincidentally know Prince Chris and Princess Serlin. Are my invitation letters to beautiful people all gone? The four-eyed boy asked, shaking his head. Altho used both hands to push his friend's face away and said, Forget about that, you weirdo. After the speech, the opening ceremony finally ended. Although the four-eyed boy knew the things they talked about were important, he still found it incredibly boring. When Altho's pet jumped onto his head, everyone around started looking at him, wondering if he was unaware or just didn't care. The four-eyed boy grumbled, feeling it was a waste of time. As they walked, they suddenly saw a group of students making a commotion. Wake up! How can a dwarf like you dream of becoming a true enchanter? Why don't you stick to making weapons for real warriors like me? What did you just say? Who you think you are? The dwarf retorted. The four-eyed boy curiously approached. Let's go see what's happening. He felt disappointed, as it seemed like another case of racial discrimination. It looked like the dwarf was going to face some trouble again. My name is Nicholas Drayle. The taller boy taunted. Why will you challenge me, shorty? Or can you only bark? The dwarf, enraged, responded, You will regret this. I, Brosnian Boar, declare a duel between myself and Nicholas Drayle. Nicholas lifted the badge on his chest and smugly replied, I accept your challenge. Althal noticed the badge on his own shirt and realized, so these artifacts the school gives to students can create a protective barrier for battles within the academy. Interesting. And so the duel began. The four-eyed boy cheered for the dwarf, while Althal observed. The provocateur was a red core enchanter, and the dwarf was a black core enchanter. Let's see what they can do, Althal thought, watching both opponents' determined expressions as they chanted their spells. The four-eyed boy, standing outside the barrier, muttered, "What kind of blunt blade is that, to control earth elements like that as an enchanter when he's only a red core mage? It shows he's not only talented, but has also practiced a lot." After a while of fighting, Nicholas continuously dodged the dwarf's attacks. The dwarf shouted, "Why do you fight like a coward?" "You call me a coward? Winning is winning, shorty," Nicholas retorted. "When the barrier breaks, the battle should end, but I don't think Nicholas intends to stop." As Althal predicted, Nicholas raised his foot and sneered, "Let's see how you fight with a broken arm, you novice." The four-eyed boy saw this as an opportunity to be the hero and started stepping toward them. But as he was moving, he heard Althal shout loudly, "Oh no, that's the student council president." Hearing that made Nicholas look around in fear. "Where's the president?" Althal laughed playfully. "Oh, I must have been mistaken." Misunderstanding Althal's intention, the four-eyed boy grumbled, "You just ruined my chance to shine." "Your chance?" Althal responded. "You mean your chance to bully a sword wielder?" Nicholas, annoyed, walked toward Althal and grabbed his shoulder. "Are you challenging me, you academic brat? How dare you ruin my fight?" The four-eyed boy tried to calm him down. "Relax. Discrimination isn't cool, you know. Besides, I'm pretty sure the fight ended a while ago." Nicholas sneered, "I decide when the fight ends, weakling." "I don't think so," Althal replied calmly. "Don't let me catch you in class." Nicholas threatened as he turned to leave. Althal sighed, and his pet spat on Nicholas' neck. Enraged, Nicholas spun around, but Althal quickly said, "That wasn't me." Nicholas raised his hand to strike Althal. "You dare!" A commanding voice interrupted, drawing everyone's attention. This time, it was indeed the student council president. "I need to finish the agenda for the disciplinary committee meeting, which runs from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., she said, deep in thought. "I didn't see him during the speech. Did he skip the opening ceremony?" But Goodsky said he attended. "How should I react when I find him? Should I be cold or friendly? What if he sees me first?" A multitude of questions swirled in her mind. "President, President," someone called out, "are you feeling unwell? We'll cancel the meetings if—" "No, I'm fine," she reassured, waving her hand. "There's a lot to do today." Then, suddenly, she spotted Althal, the one she had been searching for. She looked in his direction. The guy next to her said, "That Nicholas from the Drail family is one of the promising students who enrolled last year. The red-haired guy seems to be a first year, but I don't recognize him among the noble students, so he's probably a commoner." Nicholas warned Althal not to cross him in class and prepared to attack him. The student council president and Lilia thought that the boy would be in serious trouble if he messed with Althal. Oh no, they quickly headed towards them. Nicholas quickly pointed towards the dwarf and explained, "This is a misunderstanding. I accepted a duel from that dwarf when this first-year kid interrupted us." Althal cheerfully waved. Lilia asked, "Althal, what's going on here?" The president was surprised. "Do you two know each other?" Lilia responded happily. "Yes, Althal's father and my father have worked together for many years, so we've been childhood friends." Althal added, "We lived together for a while." The president, surprised, said, "Oh really?" Lilia, embarrassed, said, "You might give people the wrong idea saying it like that." Althal replied, "I'm not wrong though." Setting their conversation aside, the man accompanying the president asked Nicholas, "What's the meaning of this? Even if you were interrupted, you are not allowed to point your weapon at him." Nicholas stammered, "I just meant to scare him. Of course, I wasn't going to attack." The president said, "If that's the case, we can let you off this time. But pointing your weapon at someone outside the dueling area is against academy rules. Even if you put your weapon away before attacking, your actions warrant suspension. If you had harmed a single hair on my head, expulsion would have been a lenient punishment." The president approached angrily, making Nicholas very frightened. "So I'll ask again, do you dare?" "Nicholas, Trembling, bowed towards Althal. I apologize for acting rashly out of anger. Your actions will be reported. Now, everyone, disperse. And you, the president addressed Althal. Why are you causing trouble as soon as you enroll? Your grandfather said you should stay humble. What would happen if you fought a second-year student? Too easy, Althal replied. What? Althal asked, confused. Are you really blaming me after only seeing the last 5 seconds of what happened? It doesn't matter. Do you know what could have happened if the situation escalated? Mikolas was prepared to seriously injure him, even after the shield broke. Althal pointed to the dwarf. If I hadn't distracted him, he would have faced an even bigger problem. The four-eyed friend tugged at Althal. Come on, let's go. The president isn't wrong, he said. Althal, frustrated, turned away, and the four-eyed friend tried to stop him, but was unsuccessful. Lilia patted the four-eyed friend on the shoulder to console him. But then a hand rested on Althal's shoulder. Wait, freshman, were you raised in the woods? Seeing this, the president worriedly intervened. Stop right now. I can't, President, the man said. I can't accept his disrespectful attitude towards you. There's no doubt he wasn't raised properly. Althal sighed and said, I'm really starting to hate how people keep grabbing me like this. The guy, surprised, asked, What do you mean, you think? Before he could finish, Althal threw him far away. The 3 people behind him were terrified. Lilia ran over and asked, Are you okay? The president tried to pull Althal back, but hesitated for some reason. When she got home, she leaned against the wall, exhausted, and said, Everything's ruined. She then walked dejectedly to her bed, clenched her hand on the blanket, and hit her head on the pillow before collapsing onto the bed. She angrily thought, Is this my fault? I was just looking for Althal. If he causes trouble like always, not only will he lose access to the library, but also other training facilities. Maybe I shouldn't have been so strict. He wasn't the one wielding the weapon, but he himself is a weapon. And more importantly, why is he living with Lilia? Does he just find lost girls and take them home? It's all Ms. Goodsky's fault for making me the student council president. If I weren't, I wouldn't have to care about treating all students fairly. We could just be together. There was a knock at the door. Knock, knock. President, it's clear. I wanted to check on you. You seemed exhausted during the meeting after running into that first year. I'm fine. I'm not the one who was thrown. Clear asked. Who is he? How dare he talk to you like that when you were just giving him advice? Should I tell the principal? No, let it go. It's over. Besides, why does he have to keep getting more handsome? How many students are going to fall for him? Clear left, feeling helpless after hearing the president's words. Meanwhile, Althal and his friend had returned to their room. They were unpacking and noticed the provided sheets were really nice. This academy is huge, his friend said. I didn't think it would take this long to explore. Althal didn't know how to respond. His friend asked, Are you still upset about bumping into the vice president? Yeah, that and other things. It's strange for me to stand and argue. Normally, I would just ignore and walk away. Althal frowned, thinking, what Tessia said wasn't wrong. Why am I so annoyed? Is it because it was Tessia who said it? His friend asked, trying to lighten the mood. Forget about it, Althal said, trying to push the thoughts out of his mind. Hearing a knock on the door, Althal opened it and asked, Who is it? Good evening, Althal. May I come in? The curious friend peeked out to see who it was and was surprised to see Principal Goodsky. He ran to the door and politely said, It's such an honor to meet you up close like this, ma'am. Principal Goodsky asked Eliugia. Ah, I've heard great things about you from Vincent. Hearing that, Eliugia was very pleased, cutting into the conversation, although invited the principal inside. Realizing they needed to talk privately, the friend quickly said, I'll go get some water downstairs. Oh, thank you. When the friend left, the two of them sat across from each other. I've told you to call me ma'am, and you've refused before, Principal Goodsky remarked, looking at the contract beast. It seems that not only your contract beast has changed. I can only sense the wind and earth elements from you. Are you using any concealment spells? I can't say I'm not disappointed, she continued. I was hoping to boast about protecting a child with 4 elements. I was also quite pleased to see you register as an academic mage, just as I had predicted. Eliugia looked at the bracelet and said, I was planning to tell you about that when we met, but I made a troublesome enemy while I was an adventurer, and I don't want given any reason to suspect me. At least not now. Principal Goodski covered her mouth and laughed. Only you would dare to call Lucas' younger brother, who is also the heir to one of the most influential military families, just a troublesome enemy. I worry more about your real enemies in the future. You're always like that. You shouldn't say those things to a child just starting school. Ellie responded. Haha, you're right, I apologize. Don't worry, but if we're talking about school, I need to ask you for a favor, Principal Goodsky said. What is it? Ellie asked. I want to attend advanced mana theory classes, especially those on special elements. He replied. That's not difficult, but I thought one of the main reasons you joined the academy so late was to integrate with your peers, she said. I will still attend regular classes with my peers. I just have a desire to learn more about the application of mana and special elements because I've been stuck lately. Ellie explained, thinking to himself, and because my old world had no such thing. All right, leave it to me. I can also give you a pass to observe close combat sessions between upper-class mages, she offered. Wow, yes, ma'am. What do you need me to do? Hearing this, the boy suddenly opened the door and said, How can you be so disrespectful to the principal? How can you see his kindness as having ulterior motives? No, I really didn't mean it that way. Hearing this, the boy felt very embarrassed and didn't know what to say next. He just quietly placed the glasses of water he had brought on the table. The principal asked, You are worried about the student council, aren't you? Yes, if they are what people usually call the shield of the academy. This year I want them to be known as the Sharp Swords. I want you to join the disciplinary committee. Although surprised, he asked, The disciplinary committee? But I'm just a freshman, and not even a combat mage. The principal calmly responded, My playground, my rules. Drop the special class. You can study on your own in the library. But underclassmen aren't allowed to access those books. Not even upperclassmen, unless they prove they have a special element, which I currently can't do. Sitting beside him, his friend watched the conversation unfold as if they were old friends, not a student and the principal. Moreover, members of the disciplinary committee are chosen for their strength. So you'll have friends to learn and train with. I'll also grant them access to some top-secret training facilities. You mean, those chosen are based on strength? That means... She raised her hand to stop him. Even though the Wykes family insisted on a position for Lucas, I refused because I wanted you to join. You've been preparing for this, haven't you? Yes, I'm pursuing you for this role. All right then, but that training better be intense. Of course, she turned into a box containing clothes. I placed a disciplinary council uniform for the boy. Then, holding the set in his hand, he felt quite annoyed knowing she knew for sure he would agree. Although, make peace with the head of the student council, Tessia, and leave soon. It's not good to be angry with a childhood friend. You were surprised by Tessia, your childhood friend. Two of them walked out of the Althal court. Sorry, I was going to tell you, but everything is like that now. It's okay, I also have a childhood friend. Her name is Hyoge. I understand. She looks like a cute little girl. Lilia Princess Serlin, and now Princess Tessia. What's next? Are you going to Taz the princess? No, I have never courted anyone. Is it worse, or do you just need to release hormones that attract others? I want that too, but you're so strange to love me, aren't you? That's why you love me, because you are also crazy waiting for me. Suddenly, everyone at home eating looked at Althal. It seems that rumors about Although have been spread everywhere. Although scratched his head without me being famous. You feel so crazy. I'm sorry I didn't notice. You are wasting your time with an inferior person. My name is Charles from the famous Ravenpour clan. You must have heard of it. Today, I feel quite generous, so I will let you join our group. I'm sure you won't regret it. Hearing that, Although and his friend were very surprised. The Ravenpour clan is quite strong. No one names a noble clan after a bird. Oh, sorry, I must have heard it wrong. Seeing that, he was angry and hit both trays of their food. Do you dare to insult the nobility? I went through the trouble to invite you in to make sure you don't lower yourself to play with this trashy academic guy. But do you dare to insult me? Angry, my friend stood up and said, Why should I go with someone who looks down on me? My best friend is open about it. We are all sorcerers in this academy, so don't think about it yourself. He said we were all sorcerers. Maybe you live in the forest, so you don't know the difference between us and it. He replied with a tough attitude. I live in a real wall, and even the student council says we shouldn't discriminate against us. Of course. They say that for political reasons and appearances, not reality. He raised his hand to hit Althal and said, "The only way to make you aware of it is to see it." Before he could strike Althal, he was attacked by something and couldn't see who did it. It was probably just coincidence. There's no way this academic kid could move that fast. He continued to intend to strike Althal, but his friend stood in front of him. Although said, "I can avoid it, but Ilyujia." Before he could finish, the other guy was entangled by vines. What is this? He thought. Are their students strong enough to use such powerful magic? Or is this the magic of this instructor? Altho looked towards the door, smiling and perhaps knew who had intervened. He wasn't sure how to handle him if he used magic here. It would only cause trouble for him and Ilyujia. Or did the guy say, "Do you think you can escape this? Wait until I tell Mom." But suddenly he realized, why does this kid have such pressure? Why does that academic look different now? Although said, "You noble kids seem to like boasting about your wealth and power. What you're doing is just demeaning your family." He arrogantly replied, "Putting trash like you in your place is what we should do. My family should be truly proud of it." His friend standing beside him saw Altho looking like he was about to eat that guy. "What should I do now? Should I intervene?" Altho responded to the other guy, "Really? Well then, let me teach you a lesson. I have no weapon and I'm tightly bound. What can you do to me when so many people are watching?" He raised his hand and said, "Something worse than physical injury. Do you think an insignificant kid like you can escape using magic?" He stepped closer, pulled down his pants, and the people around him were horrified and discussing. "Why isn't anything visible? Go on, you guys, don't look." Although coldly turned and walked out of the house. "Eat, and I'll be back soon," he said. He confidently replied, "That's right, it's definitely." As he stepped outside, the night sky was full of stars along with the moon, incredibly romantic. He approached where the president was sitting next to her. He smiled and thanked her for the help. She lowered her head and said softly, "I know you didn't need to." He looked up at the sky and replied, "You did help. We didn't get into trouble a second time today." Suddenly, he fell silent, unsure of what else to say. He moved closer to her again and apologized. Unexpectedly, she also looked up and apologized to Althal. Her head collided with Althal's chin, causing both of them pain. He chuckled and said, "Ouch, I just heard my jaw crack." But he realized something was wrong again. Once more, he approached her and found her crying. He asked with concern, but she told him to be quiet because it hurt. Surprised, he asked, "Is it that painful?" She leaned her head back, her face contorting in pain, as she touched her swollen cheek. He smiled gently, pulling her head to rest on his shoulder. "I thought you hated me," she said softly. Although replied gently, "Even if I get angry at you sometimes, Tessia, I would never hate you." She replied, "I don't like that either, you know." She looked up at Althal with sparkling eyes. "I don't want you to get angry at me. Although apologize, I know I was wrong this time. I know you were looking for me. I shouldn't have shouted at you like that. I'm the one who was wrong, not you. I shouldn't have said those things to you in front of everyone. I guess I'm still trying to get used to this thing called being the student council president." Their four-eyed friend with the contracted beast stepped out cheerfully, saying, "That guy just got out of the vines and pulled up his pants. Haha, you should have seen his face." Before he could finish, he saw the two of them embracing each other. "Oh my God, am I interrupting something here?" He waved to Althal and said, "Althal, what's this fool thinking?" The beast on his friend's shoulder had now jumped down, called his mom, and snuggled into her lap. Although stood up, raised his hand, and said, "Let's go for a walk." They walked and talked, unable to believe such things had happened when he was an adventurer. "As for me, I never expected Principal Goodski to be so close to you. No wonder she knows so much about me. That's partly why I became her disciple, isn't it? I think your skills are the main reason," she said softly, looking at Althal. "He's changed a lot since the last time I saw him. Even the way he moves feels deliberate, and his damn face. I envy Jasmine so much. I wish I could have gone adventuring with Altho 2 years ago." Altho looked at her and asked, "What's wrong?" She startled, embarrassed. "No, nothing, haha." After a while, it seemed they had returned to the dormitory. "Oh, I forgot," he said, taking out the green monster core he had captured during the adventure. She was surprised. "I heard Master Goodscat talk about this, but Altho said it's a small gift to congratulate you on becoming a dual-element mage." Then he handed it to her. I couldn't accept such a precious gift, she said. He smiled and said, I couldn't think of a better gift for you. Well, tomorrow is an important day for both of us, right? Let's go to sleep. See you later. He waved goodbye with his beast, and she smiled, holding the monster core close to her chest and waving back. Even now, he gives me something so valuable so easily, she thought as Althal returned to his room, opening the door to find his friend wrapped tightly in a blanket. Suddenly, he poked his head out, his tone and face extremely eerie. Welcome back, Althal. Startled, he jumped back, his heart pounding. Sit down, please, and please explain what I just saw earlier, he said. All right, and so the two of them got into bed, lying down and confiding. His friend asked, even when you two are childhood friends, I still can't believe the moon goddess rested her head on your shoulder. Moon goddess? You just came up with that, didn't you? That's the name the whole school uses to call our student council president. That's all. But why the moon goddess? His friend sat up to explain. Because she shines like the moon. Althal, you're being silly. The moon is almost within your reach, but no matter how hard you try, you can't touch it. His friend said angrily, turning to Althal. But you just touched the moon. You hugged the moon tightly. Althal threw a pillow straight at his face. Go to bed. The next morning, Althal woke up and prepared his clothes neatly while his friend was still asleep, muttering about the moon being too far away. Althal and his beast walked to a room where Sylvie was, attracting the attention of everyone around. This was the place to see who was the strongest at Xyrus Academy. As soon as he entered, a large lion rushed up and growled at him. Althal stepped back towards the man, wiping his sweat. Is this a plan prepared in advance to see how thick my skin is? He asked. The man replied, that will do. It seems Principal Goodsky has chosen an interesting person. It might be because you deserve it, or just hereditary. He said to Althal, blood can't lie, can it? Although asked apologetically, the man laughed and said, it's all right, it's just an old saying. Anyway, my name is Kai Cressless. Call me Kai. Although introduced himself and shook hands, saying he was glad to meet him. He then pointed to his pet and said, and this is my summoned beast. The man chuckled awkwardly, thinking, what kind of monster can make Sylvie obey like that? Another person appeared, plus 3 beautiful boys, and there wasn't a real man in the council. So Althal, he remembered, isn't this Helgarth my friend told me about? Why did he come forward? Helgarth said, I'm Doradria. I'm a freshman. Nice to meet you. Doradri, I'm Arlie Wynn, also a freshman, like you. Let's shake hands and get acquainted. But not so quickly, Curtis said, urging them to hurry. The other members are waiting for us in another room. Helgarth said, Principal Goodsky hasn't told us your name yet, which made us curious. The girl grabbed Althal's hand and rushed in. The last person has arrived, everyone. I knew it had to be you, Althal. I'm not that surprised, Curtis said. The two of them looked at the summoned beast and said, it seems the opposite has happened. Huh. Is this your summoned beast? Althal said, wait, isn't that the lion from your world that you bought at the auction? The first time we met. Exactly, his friend replied. We formed an equal contract before it reached rank A. Congratulations. It's great to see you again. Likewise, Althal responded. And welcome to the disciplinary committee. Everyone looked surprised and asked if the two knew each other. His friend answered, not just me. This answer made Althal curious. A beautiful girl descended the stairs. Nice to see you again, Althal, she said. Likewise, Princess Serlin, he replied. Are you forgetting someone? Long time no see, Althal. Apologies, I know you, he replied firmly. I'm Faerith. Though I'm also a freshman like you, I'm a few years older, so please treat me with respect. All right, reminiscing too much. Everything feels like just yesterday, doesn't it? The day I knocked you out, he chuckled. Today, you deliberately bring that up, huh? Seems like we're strangers now, said Claire Blayhart, a 6th-year student and leader of this chaotic group. Blayhart, are you related to Caspian? Although asked. She replied, oh, you know my uncle. Just stories I've heard about Caspian's amazing power from my father. Ah, my uncle started training me right after I woke up, so many of my skills resemble his. But I'm glad you recognize his name. The boy next to the girl looked at Althal and wondered aloud. Seems like the disciplinary committee is pretty ruthless now, letting annoying people join. He raised his hand to shake Altho's hand. As they shook hands, Altho suddenly realized it was gravity magic. You tested me, huh? If not for my body's harmony with Sylvie's summoned beast's willpower, I wouldn't be standing here. After they shook hands, everyone was surprised that Altho wasn't bad. One person clapped. Looks like Altho isn't just a handsome face, huh? The other boy facepalmed when he did that. I'm a magic magician, he said. He's a magic magician, but don't compare me to a rogue like him. The girl, who was carrying both on her shoulders, said, all right, enough excitement. We need to get started with the introduction urgently. This will be the first time members of the disciplinary committee reveal themselves to all students. Altho replied, hold on, I didn't know about this, so I haven't prepared anything. No need for preparation. The student council will make the announcement. We just need to step out and look cool. Altho chuckled. I bet there will be a giant Ranka monster. It'll be useful. The team captain clapped his hands. Let's inform all the students out there what they'll face if they break any rules. Now that all the rules have been announced, the student council solemnly introduces to everyone an organization chosen by the headmaster himself, tasked with resolving disputes between students and applying penalties to violators, to maintain peace and safety for all students. Please join me in welcoming them, the disciplinary committee. After the disciplinary committee was introduced to all the students, on a fine day, they began their classes. As they entered the classroom, they began to discuss. Isn't that one of the members of the disciplinary committee from yesterday? Yes, from the ceremony yesterday. I remember his name is Altho. Jealous that he also signed up for that position. Huh. A first-year academic brat on the disciplinary committee. Must be some family connection. But I've heard the disciplinary committee has to be really strong. The boy with 4 eyes patted Altho on the shoulder, teasing. See, someone's already famous. Altho sighed. I never thought being on the disciplinary committee would make me this famous. In each story, being one of the 8 students allowed to wear this black uniform in the academy has made me famous enough. As everyone buzzed with excitement, the lecturer entered. Altho looked towards him and realized he was a magic mage. He controls just enough core to make you unable to sense the core level, he thought. The lecturer slammed a large book shut, breaking the buzzing atmosphere. Everyone fell silent. Now that I have your attention, let me welcome you to class. Basic Mana Theory. I am Professor AVUS. I know you students have more interesting topics to discuss amongst yourselves, but I want you to pay attention during class time. Although this is a basic class, it's mandatory for you to grasp the content we'll be covering this term. To emphasize that, I'll be giving you interesting projects and assignments throughout the course. With the changes starting this year, I believe discussions about the prejudice towards pure magic mages over magic-enhanced mages will truly emerge. In the past, reaching the bronze core level was considered extremely difficult. Magic-type mages had a significant advantage over enhancement-type mages in terms of physics. Magic-type mages had more mana circuits developed, responsible for absorbing mana from the external environment and transporting it to the mana core inside. Meanwhile, enhancement-type mages had many mana channels to develop, which distributed mana from the mage's core to the rest of the body. Because magic-type mages could absorb mana from the surrounding environment more efficiently, they also found it easier to advance to higher levels. However, as both types advanced to the core level, this difference gradually became less distinct. While the professor lectured, 2 students were not paying attention, discussing something. The professor continued fervently. Magic-type mages will have an easier time distributing mana inside the body, whereas enhancement-type mages will excel in controlling mana application from a distance. As he finished, the professor used a force to push towards the 2 students, making them jump and startle. Someone answer me. If in the end, both a magic-type mage and an enhancement-type mage reach the silver core level, who will have the advantage? Will the one not only nurturing the core, but also the body gain more benefits or not? The rest of the class continued with debates on the magic-type students, based on Professor AVUS's earlier argument. Although the debate could only rely on hypotheses and notes about clashes between high-ranking mages, it still kept the students open-minded. The bubble sound signaling the end of the class echoed. Everyone dispersed after class. Altho and his friend greeted each other. His friend said, "My next class is in this direction, so let's meet for lunch." Altho replied, "Remember to save me a spot if you get there first." Moving on to the next class location, Altho sensed that this class would be more interesting. He stretched his shoulders. It's been a while since I've had to sit for so long. The princess asked, "Can I sit here?" Altho questioned, "But there are still plenty of empty seats. Why here specifically?" Nonetheless, he agreed cheerfully, "Sure, go ahead." The princess thanked him, glancing at Altho's cute familiar spirit. "Look who's here. So you're the princess and my rival, huh?" Altho wondered when they became rivals and why he was sitting next to me like this. I knew our class would be very popular, but look, it's packed with students. Altho realized it wasn't the brat who had humiliated him. They recognized each other. He's actually studying here. That gives me plenty of chances to embarrass him. As everyone already knows, this class is called mana application, meaning we do very practical things. And that means through examples, because the most valuable knowledge is experience. Right. It's an honor for us to be taught by the members of the disciplinary committee. Altho pondered what that drinker was planning to do. But I'm sure it's not just me. Everyone is curious about the abilities of the new members. Right. But anyway, they are the ones responsible for protecting all the students of this academy. Altho thought, who would be foolish enough to fall into a trap? But you were wrong when the person next to you raised their hand, volunteering. Her name is Xyrus. She is very honored to represent the disciplinary committee, chosen personally by Headmaster Goodsky, which shows our true abilities. He was absolutely certain and said so. Isn't that right, Xyrus? Come down here. He bowed respectfully. I am very honored to be taught and guided by you. Because I can't sense the mana core level of the teacher, I think the teacher's level is much higher than mine. Even if I'm a fire mage, I will use long-range attacks in this match. By doing this, even if I lose, there will still be a reason, right? The students above laughed at hearing this. He said, Xyrus, protection has been initiated. Let's begin, shall we? Very pleased, he immediately recited his own incantation. Altho observed that this was a high-level incantation, adjusting the terrain around him to benefit the user. Unexpectedly, Xyrus used such a terrain incantation. I guess that drinker isn't just all talk, because he can create blue flames. He unleashed a series of techniques to defeat him, but he saw that you were still inexperienced. Indeed, as Altho thought, he quickly retaliated against you. Then he confidently said, "Surrender, you surrender." He is enhancing his own value by humiliating Xyrus. Altho comforted you. You did very well. Xyrus, consider this a lesson for all tricks. I thought that with my elemental advantage, you Xyrus could have protected yourself beforehand. My spell was clearly wrong. Will anyone else from the disciplinary committee assist? The princess stood up and said, I volunteer, which surprised everyone greatly. I didn't think that girl would also volunteer. Mastering ice magic, she just witnessed his fire element. I think Xyrus shouldn't rush to speak, but it's too late. She's already there. He bowed and said, Princess, I am honored. Regardless of the outcome of this mock battle, don't be hard on yourself. This girl doesn't react much, does she? But that's okay. Let's begin. After a few warm-up moves, she said, Ignite. He was impressed, just as expected of our princess. Although remembered, wasn't that the incantation Lucas used during his ranking test? He sees her as clever, breaking her own ice dagger to create arrows, but it had no effect on him. He retaliated fiercely. Surprisingly, she didn't defend herself, sensing danger. Everyone was worried. Altho saw that. He rushed down to rescue her from danger. He looked around in confusion. Where did she go? He found Altho had rescued her to safety. She was terrified, sweating profusely. He turned back and said, I think this little game should end now. Right? Yes, teacher. I really appreciate you saving the princess. But that wasn't necessary. I can control myself. People started discussing. Of course, a professor at this prestigious academy would put his student in danger. Exactly, maybe he went too far. He brazenly said, I was ready to dispel magic just now. Altho thought it was nonsense, because the magic was fully formed and couldn't be dispelled. But Serlin wasn't hurt. I don't have evidence. I had to force him to reveal his true nature. He could only say that. If that's the case, allow me to intercede in this battle. If you want, even if the princess can't continue. He told the princess, Don't misunderstand me, princess. I didn't intend to harm you. Although asked if she was okay, she replied that the help was unnecessary. but thanked him for risking his life to save her. Now, Professor, allow me the honor of learning from you. He saw that he had a good weapon because he was an enhancer. So I think it would be fairer for you to choose my fighting style. Anyway, it's okay, you arrogant brat. I want you to choose. Whatever you like, I'll indulge you. I promise to go easy on you. Then the two of them lunged at each other in combat. Although spoke softly. Oh, really? He realized that the other wasn't using any spells at all, only enhancing his body and sword with mana. How dare he underestimate me, he thought. I believe the members of the disciplinary committee are not a bunch of mice who only know how to hide and run away, right? Provoking him required an attack. Even our esteemed professor couldn't land a single hit on a first-year student. He, enraged, kept attacking continuously. Although, sitting above, thought angrily, should I call the student council? This isn't just a demonstration anymore. After a while of fighting, he felt Altho speeding up. Altho said, even mice become dangerous when cornered, Professor. Saying that, they continued to clash. Xyrus, from above, observed that Altho was pushing the professor back. He was on a completely different level. Altho felt it was time to end the battle. Enraged, the professor said, do you think this is enough to defeat me? But this might do it, Altho replied, and the professor was finally defeated. Mockingly, Altho said, thank you, Professor, for your guidance. Seeing him defeat the professor, everyone above applauded. Seeing the princess walk out, he followed, intending to call her back. But Xyrus called him back and said, I admit you were quite impressive just now. Just as I expected from my rival. Thank you, you too, Altho replied. If you knew what spell the professor was about to use, I'm sure you would have prepared countermeasures. Haha, of course. I didn't expect him to use such a powerful spell for a demonstration. Otherwise, I would have won for sure. The princess turned back and asked the two of them, what about me? Altho scratched his head and said, well, I might not be the brightest, but I'll say the biggest mistake you made was neglecting to defend yourself in that spell. Finally, after speaking, the three of them fell silent until she turned away again. Both of them breathed a sigh of relief. Well, I should be going now. See you later. As his rival walked away, Selby saw his father looking dejected. He asked, why do you look so sad, Dad? Gently patting his head, his father said, it's nothing important. I just couldn't resolve the issue with the wind element. I've realized that I need to train much harder to achieve my goals. Altho was searching for the next class. Suddenly, he became surprised. His eyes focused on the basic class about artifact craftsmanship, which involved transporting and manipulating mana into items for specific needs. His old world didn't have this. Excuse me, is this seat taken? He asked. If it is, I can sit elsewhere. Altho replied kindly, no, there's no one here. Sit wherever you feel comfortable. Thank you. My name is Emily. Nice to meet you. Then she stammered, my name is Emily Washkent. Please be my friend. I mean, it's nice to meet you. After speaking, she thought, damn it, he must think I'm weird. He extended his hand and said, my name is Altho. Since this is our first meeting, let's start with getting to know each other. She eagerly shook his hand. Through the handshake, he sensed she must have practiced a lot. She timidly said, oh, sorry, you must find it gross. It's okay. I also had scars from training, he said, showing his hands to make her feel less self-conscious. Wow, you must have trained a lot. No wonder you got into the disciplinary committee. I really admire that, she said. As for me, I just love crafting, so I keep tinkering with tools, which makes my hands quite rough, she added. Really? I'm quite envious of your passion for creativity, he replied. Through fighting, the only thing you get better at is killing and destroying. But with crafting, the better you get, the more things you can create. I never thought of it that way. But it's surprising to hear such thoughts from a 12-year-old, she said. Haha, you talk as if you're not 12 yourself, Altho replied. That's right. No one has mentioned it since I created the projection screen, she said. Altho was taken aback. My God, at what age did she create that? I must say, I am honored to meet a genius like you, he added. Oh, come on. Am I hearing this from a first-year student? She laughed. Even if you have a mana beast, like that strange one with overwhelming power, defeating not only the professor but also an experienced former adventurer, don't make me laugh. Don't be so surprised. This is a magic academy. News travels fast, and rumors even faster, she concluded. There was the sound of the door opening, and a voice said, "Hello, commoners. No need to be too excited to have the honor of my presence. Professor Gideon is your instructor for this class." He suddenly noticed, "Isn't that Altho? I didn't expect you to join my class." Altho thought, "He's such a slimeball," but Gideon continued enthusiastically. "About 20 years ago, I created. 3 years later, I discovered and created. Have I mentioned that I was responsible for?" Altho felt exasperated, thinking, did he come here just to brag? Suddenly, a large bird flew in through the window and perched on his shoulder. Gideon said, "It seems Principal Goodsky is looking for you, which means you won't be able to witness the rest of this life-changing lecture." "Go on, kid," Emily remarked. "See, news spreads fast here." Then he went to meet Principal Goodsky. He asked the two beasts on his shoulders, "How long are you two going to keep fighting?" He saw the princess and waved, "Oh, hello," but she ignored him, making him realize something was amiss. He hid behind the door. "Did you call for me, Principal Goodsky?" he asked, feeling slightly anxious. "Oh no, she looks really angry." "Please, have a seat," she said. Although quickly spoke up, "If this is about the fight between me and Professor, I only did it because I saw him using." "I didn't call you because of the conflict with Professor," she interrupted, making him curious. After a moment of silence, Altho asked, "Then why?" "Do you want to become a temporary instructor for the mana transportation class?" she asked. He looked around and said, "Is someone behind me?" "I'm talking to you, kid," she replied. "What did Serlin say to make you decide this?" "Calling her by name now, huh? If you steal the hearts of both princesses, it will be a big trouble, Altho. I'd want to start a world war." "Don't joke about that, but you're kidding, right? I'm still just a student who hasn't even completed the first day of school. Can a student be both a teacher and a student? Come on, it's not that complicated. It's actually quite simple. Of course, it's allowed as long as I say so. There are often cases where senior students are recognized and take on teaching basic classes. You're not that special in that regard. And about Professor Gexa, we've just expelled him from the academy. Don't be so surprised. I've investigated everything." She continued, "With the help of Princess Serlin, he couldn't defend himself. Moreover, I've never seen her take anything this seriously." "Really? But still, I don't understand why you did this, Principal." "Because I have a vacancy that I want you to fill. I'm not hiding anything this time. You don't need to be so suspicious. Besides, I think this will be better for building your reputation than challenging my professors one by one. You'll stand out quite a bit, but I'll protect you if necessary. Parents might complain." "They might, but I'm the principal. It's better than canceling the class. It's up to you, but instead of just sitting in class, you should utilize your time better. You're too idle." Altho thought, "After today, I won't be able to live a low-profile life anymore. I'll give it a try. I'm sure you'll do well." As Altho walked away, she muttered, "That kid always keeps me busy. Negotiating with him is more complicated than with the royal family." "What do you think of the boy, Avi?" she asked. "He's very different. Don't underestimate him as a child. Whether it's his sharp mind or emotional maturity, he's not as he appears." "How can you be so sure?" "Because of his contracted beast. The true form of that fox is a dragon." She was surprised. "Really? I suspect that when he grows up, my power won't be able to compare to his. Don't make an enemy of the boy. If you respect and trust him, he will become your strongest ally. But if you betray him, he can be the reason this continent falls." Altho headed to the cafeteria, where his friend had saved a seat for him. "This is my best friend and roommate, Shazlot. This is Altho. Nice to meet you," Shazlot said. "Nice to meet you too," Altho replied. "How was class without me?" "It was fun, of course. I really enjoyed the basic spells and mana manipulation. However, some parts felt repetitive because of what you had already taught me." "She was in the same spell class with me. She's very talented," Lug said. "Come on, you're making me blush," she replied. "What about you? I heard you took down the professor." "About that, I ended up becoming the instructor for that class." "Sorry, what? You're becoming a professor?" "Yes, I'm taking over teaching that class. Don't spit water in the professor's face." "Professor, my foot. Should I skip some classes to attend yours? I want to see it firsthand." His friend continued. "By the way, She and I are going shopping in town. Do you want to come? Yes, you should come with us, although, she added. Sorry, but I have 3 more classes. I can't skip the advanced courses. Looks like it's just the 2 of us then, Carlos. Oh, I forgot. I have plans already, but we should go another time, all 3 of us. See you later. Goodbye. Alpha. She picked up her tray and stood up. His friend remarked. She must be busy. Maybe I'll just bury myself in the library and study, but she's nice and beautiful, isn't she? Do you think I have a chance? I think you can be good friends, my friend, Alpha replied. After lunch, Alpha continued to the lecture hall. Everyone around him was glancing and talking about him. Didn't expect to see you in the advanced class, someone remarked. We're over here. Glad to see you again, Alpha. Don't embarrass the disciplinary committee, another said. I'll do my best, Alpha replied. The entire class was present. I guess there are a few more people, they said. Here they are. Tessia. It's good to see you. Someone said next to Alpha. Good afternoon, Princess Tessia. Alpha greeted, but for some reason, she suddenly frowned and quickly walked away. She seems in a bad mood today. We should go, someone commented. Alpha suddenly froze as he saw the figure of Lucas passing by. Alpha immediately recalled what had happened before. He thought to himself, he's really arrogant. All eyes then turned to an eagle in the sky, followed by the appearance of the professor. Hello everyone, I am Professor Gary, and I'll be guiding the mechanical combat class. This hawk is my contracted beast. Alpha thought, what a mysterious blue-eyed hawk. Let's see how strong you are. She turned back and looked at Alpha, hiding her level and element from the crowd of students. Why? She approached him. Isn't this my new colleague? Nice to meet you, Alpha. The students in the class looked at them and started whispering. New colleague. What does that mean? I heard there's a new student turned professor. Alpha can't be that student, can he? A student raised their hand and asked Professor Gary, is that true? She smiled and replied, yes, Alpha is not just a first-year disciplinary committee member, but also the new professor assigned to the practical mana application class you took in the lower grades. Even though it's a temporary position, I must say I'm quite impressed. The students were astonished. What? You can't be serious. Professor Gary, how is that possible? Even the best upperclassmen don't get to teach, and this first-year student does. That's not fair. There must be some mistake. The captain of the disciplinary committee said, shut up and stop being jealous. Alpha sighed. Is she deliberately making herself a target? The professor clapped her hands, signaling everyone to be quiet. Now, we should have more faith in the principal's decisions. Alpha has proven himself to some extent by defeating the previous professor of that class. Defeating a lower-grade professor means nothing. Most of us could do that, especially since he was just a rogue adventurer, one student argued, making her feel a bit burnt out. Someone else suggested, why don't you try your skills against the new practical mana application professor? There was a murmur among the students. I'll kill that bastard. Who does he think he is? Alpha pointed towards the murmuring group, and then turned back to the professor. Can you believe this, professor? The vice president of the student council muttered, what's with that face? The professor leaned in close to Alpha and said, thanks for offering, but Principal Goodsky advised me to be gentle with the upper classes until I get used to the academy. This is just a first-year student in an upper class. We shouldn't treat him specially. You just need to prove your level. Fair enough, right? The students behind him shouted in unison, fair. Feeling a sense of fairness, Aldo said, what do you think, Professor? She continued, I want to start the semester with something simple yet fun, like war and conquest. Would that be okay with you, Alpha? He sighed in resignation. Since when was war and conquest fun? One member of the disciplinary committee raised their hand. Professor, I have a suggestion. Let's organize a battle. Pit 3 members of the disciplinary committee against each other in one team. This is also a chance for us to learn how to compete as the HM team, added the vice president. The student council also raised their hands. Professor, Princess Tessia, and I could be their opponents in the other team, said the princess, standing beside them, looking extremely surprised. The professor grinned. Now everything is becoming interesting. The disciplinary committee versus the student council. But if it's just 2 of them, it might be unfair. Lucas stood in a corner and raised his hand. I volunteer to join the student council. The professor was amused. You, Wykes, another brilliant first-year student, this can be a great opportunity to test your abilities. Very well, very well. You six, get ready, the professor instructed. Althol and Lucas stood close to each other, exchanging angry glances. Lucas spoke up, "You're just a commoner who took my position on the disciplinary committee. And when was it ever yours?" Althol retorted immediately. With that, the six of them prepared their attire and protective gear for the upcoming battle alongside their teammates. It's about to happen. The other students eagerly sat waiting to watch the match. Seeing Althol struggling with his gear, Princess Tessia stepped in to help. "Should Princess Tessia be helping me like this?" He protested, but she patted him on the shoulder and said, "Stop talking so loudly, Professor. Don't pretend to be serious like that, Princess. They won't hear you." "Don't do that, Fui," Althol advised. "I don't know," she replied, then added, "I don't recognize that she doesn't need." Althol quickly covered her mouth with his hand. "I'm hiding most of the elements, so I hope you do too," he told her. "But you don't need to avoid me," she said shyly, her face turning red. Seeing the two of them, the professor spoke loudly. "The two of them are already engaging with the opponents. We'll start in 2 minutes." Tessia quickly pushed Althol away. "Althol, give it your all," she said cheerfully. "I also want to see how much stronger you become." "Be careful with that," she said, her voice cheerful. "Before we start, I have a few rules to discuss. The battle will last a maximum of 30 minutes. Afterward, we'll have a discussion and analyze what happened. The disciplinary committee team will be at a disadvantage because Curtis and Claire's have undergone countless training sessions, unlike the 2 first-year members of the student council. This will surely play a role in determining the victor. If he collapses, the whole team loses. The saddles you are wearing were specially created by artisans to measure the amount of damage your body receives. If it exceeds the encoded threshold, it will emit a loud noise that could be deafening. Anyone who ignores this warning and continues to fight or uses spells will be immediately expelled from my class and may face further consequences. Let's be clear. These devices are not meant to protect you. You should prepare and protect yourself using mana. You may still sustain injuries while wearing them. Don't forget that. Now let the battle begin." Curtis sat atop his contracted beast and moved towards Princess Tessia. Although sensed that he might not be able to defeat the princess, but he could hold her back for a while. Lucas arrogantly wielded his weapon and approached Althol, thinking that coming to this academy would humble him. But apparently not. "Why are you taking so long?" he taunted. "Afraid that after today, your reputation will be ruined." The professor observed the battle from atop his beast. Althol closed his eyes, smiled, and thought to himself, "You all want to see some fun tricks." With that, he charged towards Lucas. Lucas unleashed his technique, proclaiming it would burn everything in its path. Althol deftly dodged and used his sword to break through the technique, then leaped back, laughing excitedly. "Exactly as planned," he declared. "Now come at me." Sylvie, seeing her father in danger, immediately asked worriedly, "Father, are you okay?" "I'm fine," he reassured her. "How is everyone else faring in their battles?" Excitedly, she mentioned that her mother was currently dominating Curtis. Curtis, with a grimace, seemed to understand. "If anything unusual happens," he instructed, "let me know immediately." After a few techniques from him, Althol realized that this guy's mana was even greater than when he was still an adventurer. "Darn it, without fire or water elemental abilities, I can't do anything against this heat energy, and my mana can't sustain this intensity either," he muttered. "I'm glad I'm not on the disciplinary council. Having to be in the same team as a weakling like you, I'd probably drop out," Althol said resignedly, feeling powerless that he couldn't perform his wind magic sufficiently to counter its attacks. "Think, Althol, focus on that fire," he urged himself. "Remember the basic principles of magic. Launch and apply it effectively to achieve the desired outcome. But if I can manipulate the very air particles, I could possibly eliminate the oxygen that sustains the fire," he thought, then unleashed a counterattack on Lucas. "You defeated that pathetic professor so miserably, didn't you?" Lucas taunted. "Running around like that. What are you even doing?" Althol continued to think about his next move. "More importantly, when I use that method, will I still be able to breathe?" he pondered. "But why am I thinking so much? I came to this school for this reason, after all," the professor observed, noting that Lucas seemed more skilled than he had anticipated. Hellfire is one of the toughest elemental chants. It's challenging, he murmured. Yet he masters it while still young. Moreover, his mana is greater than that of a silver core mage. The times are changing indeed, dame. She closed her eyes, saying, soon, old folks like us will be replaced entirely, especially seeing so many kids like him surpass us. He may lack elemental chance for a mage, but his movements are incredibly fluid and tightly controlled. I'm just curious about this kid, who managed to take down a former adventurer, she added, even if he's as carefree as Game Assist. But how did he live to harness that kind of energy when he was so young? She wondered, watching a series of Aiko's movements. What's he doing? She held her breath. In all seriousness, if he keeps this up, that uniform will tear. She watched Althal and told Dame to lower him down. This little monster, she mumbled, although continued to recall from a separate tongue the intricacies of air manipulation magic, a skill demanding acute attentiveness and intense focus to recite spells accurately. This precision was why there were no sorcerers capable of directly extracting air from an opponent's lungs. Such feats required hours of concentration and precise control, especially when the target was in motion. Wizards thus typically drew on their own bodies as a source of energy or a fixed point on their physique. Observing the professor, although noted his strategic positioning near his own body, maximizing the spell's efficacy. Despite this advantage, executing such a maneuver mid-battle would be challenging. Nevertheless, although pressed forward, contemplating enveloping his body in a thin layer of air to function as a makeshift vacuum, preemptively extinguishing flames before they could touch him. He reasoned it was simpler than facing the current predicament without his uniform being shredded before devising a solution. Meanwhile, Lucas, visibly unnerved, questioned how although had managed to thwart his incantation without outwardly employing any magic. Unperturbed, although declared his intent to resolve everything promptly, prompting him to loudly summon his guardian to awaken. Amidst the tension, although chuckled lightly, remarking that it was time for his adversary to reach his limits as well, sensing something amiss with the sudden surge of mana. The urgency of the situation was clear. Danger loomed, and action was imperative. Focused and determined, although swiftly planned his next move, knowing he was running low on mana after expending much of it mastering the defensive spell. As the confrontation escalated, a surge of primal energy rippled through the air, catching all those attention. Concern etched across his face as he observed Tessia, vulnerable without a protective barrier. With no time to spare, he braced himself against a nearby tree, preparing to shield her with his own body, despite lacking sufficient mana to fully block the impending threat. Tessia's gaze met all those, uncertainty clouding her expression. Even with his resolve, he knew victory against such odds, relying on his two weakest elemental forces, would be daunting. Just then, Curtis charged towards the princess, his voice ringing out with urgency. Focus on the battle ahead. There's no time to look away. The two continued their intense battle. Forgive me, Prince Curtis, she said. He was thrown towards his contracted beast, but she was surprised. What's happening? Why am I like this? Take advantage of the opportunity. Curtis and his contracted beast charged forward. He shouted, just like in training. She could feel the enormous amount of mana they were gathering, seeming to prepare for a large spell. She chanted her own spells, but he continually dodged them. She began to doubt herself. Could something be wrong with my core? I still haven't fully assimilated the mana core. Maybe I should surrender. No, as the student council president, I can't surrender. I can't let everyone think I'm weak. I can't be a coward. I can only win. Curtis and his contracted beast fought hard and managed to make the student council president faint. The professor saw this and hurried over to check on her to avoid any serious consequences. Curtis quickly explained, Professor, I didn't mean to. I didn't know she would faint. It's okay, I understand, the professor replied, and two people rushed over with a medical kit. The professor wondered how he got there and said, everyone, prepare to assess the injuries immediately. She wondered, what the hell just happened? Althal was taken to the medical room to bandage his wounds. He opened his eyes to see Sylvie sitting on him, frowning. Dad, you're so foolish, she said. He laughed and replied, What? Dad is strong, but how did he almost die? If it weren't for Dad, Sylvie wouldn't know what to do. Althal said, Sylvie, I'm sorry. You're right, I was a bit reckless. He patted her head, saying, "Don't worry, I won't leave you. I promise." Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," he said. It was Principal Goodsky. She thought there would be no response but seemed relieved he was awake. "How do you feel?" she asked. "A bit worried, as I've been seeing the principal quite a lot lately," he replied. Talking back, "I see. Then you must be fine," she said. He nervously asked about Tessia's condition. "The good news is that Tessia is in better shape than you," she answered. "But it's the will of the beast, isn't it? Her body can't control it." She wondered how he knew. "Because I'm the one who gave it to her. I should help her assimilate it. But now it's too difficult." "No, you've done enough. It's my fault. I kept the will of the beast a secret. Tessia is in the most sensitive stage of assimilation. If I had informed Professor Gary, this wouldn't have happened. Thank you for sacrificing to save my disciple." "Come on, you're acting like I'm about to die," he responded. She stood up to leave, saying, "I've contacted the royal family and your family. They will arrive soon. Get some rest." "Okay, thank you, Principal." She closed the door and said, "You sure you don't want to go in, Tessia?" Not daring to face Althal, Tessia replied, "No, I can't. Besides, he needs rest." The principal hugged her and said, "Then let's go enjoy some delicious desserts. I've just ordered them to boost your courage." As they walked away, Tessia glanced back at the room where Althal was resting. After waking up on a clear and beautiful morning, Althal opened his eyes to see his family appear. "He's awake," his father exclaimed. Their faces were full of worry. His mother affectionately asked, "How are you feeling?" "Much better," he replied. "I'm sorry for always making you worry." His sister snapped, "You look like a mess, big brother." He laughed, jokingly saying, "How touching." His sister, annoyed, retorted, "Shut up, stinky brother." Their father interjected, "She says that, but when she heard the news, she cried louder than your mother." His sister stood up angrily, hitting their father with both hands. "You promised not to say that." Althal smiled happily, looking at his sister, feeling proud of how much she worried about him. His mother, sadly stroking his head, asked, "Why were you so badly injured on your first day at school?" His father added, "What else is there to say? Our son has already started fighting at school." "You should have seen the other guy," Althal replied. The three of them burst into laughter, but his mother's face turned pale. "What did our son do this time? Did he beat someone up? Maybe there's nothing left of them now. We might have to move underground to live with the dwarves." His sister suddenly said, "Yes, mother." Principal Goodsky entered and said, "The boy was just joking, ma'am." The whole family turned to the door in surprise. "Isn't that the king's family?" They quickly rushed over to bow. "We're honored to meet you, Your Majesty," his father said. The king touched Althal's father and said, "Finally, I get to meet the family of the child who saved my daughter twice." The queen approached his mother, taking her hand and handing her a bouquet of flowers, saying, "Yes, we finally get to meet." The king introduced, "This is my father, the former king of Elena." Althal's father respectfully shook hands. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty." "And this is my daughter, Tessia," the king continued. She gently introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Tessia, a friend of Althal." With a bit of shyness, "It's an honor to meet you all." Althal's parents exchanged glances, looking at the princess, and then back at Althal, smiling knowingly. Althal wondered what they were thinking. His mother cheerfully took the princess's hands. "We're so happy to finally meet you. Althal has told us so much about you." Tessia was glad to hear that and couldn't believe her ears. "Really?" "Of course," his mother said. "It's great to have a friend like you." She leaned in and whispered to the princess, "Both now and in the future." The princess was so shy that she had to cover her face with her hands. While everyone was talking, the king's father approached Althal's bed and asked, "How are you feeling, kid?" Althal replied, "A bit nervous about what they're scheming over there." "Quiet," the former king said. "At worst, you'll end up being my son-in-law." Hearing this, Princess Tessia tugged on her beard and said, "I'm sorry about this, Althal. I told them not to come, but they didn't listen. Actually, you ended up like this because of me." "Haha, it's okay, Tessia. This is kind of fun," Althal replied. His sister stood beside them, arms crossed, and said, "So, you're the one my brother almost died saving. You must be Ellie, right? Altho's sister. You're prettier than I thought, Tessia said. Ellie turned away, saying, Thank you. You're quite pretty yourself. Ellie, she's the one who gave you the bow on your birthday, Altho added. Hearing this, Ellie was both surprised and a little embarrassed. Really? She stammered. Thank you. The princess cheerfully said, Don't mention it. I'm glad you like it. Suddenly, Ellie asked, Brother, who's prettier, me or her? Altho calmly replied, Both of you are equally ugly. His response made both of them think. Luckily, he's injured. Have you checked Tessia's core, sir? How is it? Altho asked. Fortunately, it's more compatible with the beast core than when you assimilated yours, the former king replied. But how did you get D Good's core? Altho nonchalantly answered, Just killed one. Hearing that, the former king coughed and cleared his throat. Principal Goodsuke said, I hate to break this mood, but Tessia's assimilation process needs to be monitored again. She opened the door and continued. Besides, we have some visitors stuck outside because it's too crowded. As she opened the door, several visitors tumbled in, making everyone in the room laugh. After Altho's family, Tessia, and her family left, more people came to visit him throughout the day. Some wanted to know what had happened that day, while others were genuinely concerned about his health. Members of the disciplinary committee, the princess, and even the best inventor on the continent visited him. Before leaving, the inventor said, After you recover, you should drop by your personal training room. How do you know about that? Altho asked. Principal Goodsky called me to build some equipment for you, the inventor replied. Really? For free? What kind of person do you think I am? Besides, now you owe me, he chuckled. Altho thought to himself, I knew this would happen. At least close the door on your way out. Then he closed his eyes and heard the door open. He said, Old man, what do you want to say now? But when he looked, he saw that it was Princess Tessia. He lifted himself up and asked, Is the assimilation session over? I'm still in the process of recovering, so Master Goodsky wants me to rest a bit earlier, she replied. Although I think it's the best choice, she said. So how does your core feel? Does it still hurt like before, or do you feel any pressure? She covered her mouth and giggled. He asked curiously, What's so funny? She said, You almost died, and you're still worried about me. Although he laughed and replied, Is that so? She said, Just like when you saved me from those bandits. Although he turned around and said, It's been a long time, hasn't it? Seeing his grimace and stammering response, she worriedly came closer and asked, Are you okay? I'm just having a bit of trouble moving. It's okay, Tessia. Don't worry. She lowered her face, feeling downcast. I know, but let me apologize. He laughed. I told you not to apologize anymore. It's in the past. Not because of that, but because I'm taking advantage of you like this. Then she leaned in, gave him a fierce kiss, and quickly ran out, blushing furiously. Oh my God, I just kissed him. That was my first kiss. Did I do the right thing? She wondered, Do I look weird? Then she looked into the mirror and pouted her lips. She leaned her head against the window in frustration. I might have been too forward. He might think I'm indecent and frivolous. Should I go back and say it was just a joke? She reassured herself to stay calm. No, you did the right thing, Tessia. If you wait for him, when will your relationship progress? If you don't do anything, he'll think you're just a child. This is for the best. Besides, what if he doesn't like you? Well, that's his loss. She listed her strengths. I'm a talented mage, smart and famous too. I'm not being arrogant, but you don't look bad either. It's just his loss. Thinking that, she walked away. Arthur was still in shock over what had just happened. I just kissed Tessia. I just kissed Tessia. She's only 13 years old. I'm doomed. Have I become a criminal? He worried, sweating and shaking his head. No. I'm still living in the body of a 12-year-old boy. But in this world, many people my age are already preparing to get married. Besides, she was the one who kissed me first. He remembered and slapped himself hard. Damn it. This stupid body with its immature hormones. Calm down. He lay down, placing a hand on his forehead, thinking, What am I doing? The story was temporarily put on hold. On a clear morning the next day, students were happily chatting by the classroom door, where a notice was posted stating that classes would continue for 2 more days. Soon after, discussions ensued. Have you heard? The new teacher for this class is just a first-year student. I heard he defeated the old teacher and took over. No way. I wonder if he can handle that first-year student. Should I try becoming a teacher like him? Unexpectedly, the principal along with the inventor Alvo and another man arrived at a certain place. The principal asked, "Tomorrow is your first teaching session. Do you have enough time to prepare your lesson plan?" Alvo replied, "I just got discharged from the hospital yesterday, so probably not, but I'll manage." "By the way, have you inquired about Tessia's evolution process?" The principal asked with concern for the young girl. "I'll visit her, that should be fine," replied Alvo awkwardly. The principal continued, "The core assimilation process is going smoothly with the help of Mr. Virion, but he's about to return to Elena. Do you plan to replace him?" Before he could finish, the elderly inventor said to the man, "You can leave now," then turned to the other two and said, "That's it. Let's start the presentation." "I never expected you to be so enthusiastic about this," said Professor Gideon. "You're always complaining about wasting your precious time. I want this kid to be shocked, so I had to get excited. This will definitely make him speechless," replied the inventor. "I just asked you to make a few training items, but I've made it much more grand." He pushed open the door, revealing a stunning scene inside. Even Alvo exclaimed, "This room is amazing." The inventor loudly declared, "Look at the items I've created, not just this room." The principal noticed a faint mana fluctuation. "What is this?" "I'm glad you asked, Principal," the inventor replied. "This is an item that can alter magical signs and shield against mana, withstand the effects of spells, and even enhance the abilities of mid-tier mages. This is the latest and greatest version of the training and explosion sensing device I created, also known as Tobis." He grabbed Tobis' cloth and said, "I'm currently configuring its basic technical parameters at level 5, equivalent to a core mana beast." Alvo removed the ring from his hand and asked, "So, you mean that doll-like figure is as powerful as a core gold mage?" The inventor replied, "Tobis' body is made of iron, so it's extremely sturdy. Therefore, while its damage output is limited to that level, its overall durability is quite high." Before he could finish, Alvo stepped forward and delivered a powerful punch to the center of Tobis. With just that punch, Tobis collapsed to the ground. "You're right. We need to upgrade Tobis," Alvo remarked. Gideon stood there gaping in astonishment. In another development, Luca's older brother and his team were on a mission to eliminate something. One of his teammates asked, "Have you ever seen a demon head like this before?" He replied, "Never. They're not usually this large, and that disgusting gray color." Both were certain, "No spirit or dwarf has set foot in this dungeon. We're sure this is Byron's." The expert spoke of an error and led them downstairs. "This place has been buried for a long time," he said, gripping the green thread tightly in his hand. He said seriously, "The situation has become more severe." Returning to Alvo's training with Tobis, both appear injured from fighting. But Tobis seems to be more injured than you. As a bystander, you felt, "Oh, Tobis is really pitiful." Meanwhile, the principal and his companion gambled on something, and it seems the principal won. He asked the boy if he was really injured or if he had a conspiracy with the principal, Good Sky. "Well, you don't see the steps," he said, confused. "But I thought you were dancing to congratulate King Sapin." "No, he's ready with his pen and pad this time. Do you have any comments?" You replied, "Tobis' joints seem rather weak, so we need to find a way to reinforce those positions. Even without a chant, magic elemental attack is quite limited, if it doesn't generate an element. Let's suppose Tobis fights with a strength expert. You may not be a demon, but is there anything left?" "Though not sure, I think Tobis' mana reinforcement needs to be strengthened." You went to him, took the towel, and prepared it. "Thanks," said Alvo, causing him and the principal to be amazed. Although, to give them a better understanding, now Tobis is emitting a protective barrier around his body. Even though it's the quickest and easiest way to protect oneself for a mage, it's quite vulnerable if attacked in one spot. Though this might sound a bit complex and intricate, it's better if Tobis could control a mana shield, created from individual small mana shields linked together. This way, once a barrier is set up, Tobis can quickly and easily fill in any gaps once they are breached, without wasting any excess mana from its core to create a completely new shield. "Why is everyone looking at me like that?" the headmaster asked. "So you mean you can create a mana shield like that?" That's interesting, though it takes longer to conceive a spell to create a shield like that. It will be more flexible compared to the traditional shields that mages often use, he said. Again, the headmaster approached and asked curiously, "What are you doing?" He pointed back in the opposite direction and said, "Come on, Professor, watch out for the first day's lecture." As he walked back toward the lecture hall, exhausted, he realized that he probably shouldn't have fought with 7th level Tobis, while his body was not completely recovered. Sylvie, who was walking alongside, said in an hour, the stick in his hand tripped on something, almost making him fall. Luckily, he touched someone's shoulder. He apologized and realized that it was Princess Dicathen, who pulled his hand and led him away. "What are you doing? You should rest more." Everyone was discussing anxiously in the classroom. "I heard that our professor will be in class today." "I know, but it's hard to believe." "That's right. I came to see if the first year's name was really going to be taught today." One person feels that eavesdropping is a bit of a shame, but at least Al Thal is not only an opponent but also a teammate. "Personally, I really want to see what this first year will teach." I thought he was warm, pretending to know what he was doing. "I've been taught by several fifth-year guys. I'll ask a few questions that the first years don't know. My father has donated thousands of gold a year to this academy. Yet they dare to let the first year teach. That's improper." I stole the image. "Can you take it for him to see what they're doing?" "I don't see anything that can be done." After collecting the information, the teammate can only say, "The Lord blesses your opponent. I will support you in my heart." The door swung open, and you appeared, holding a staff and accompanied by the princess. Everyone looked astonished, just as I expected. He really knows how to make an entrance, Altho thought, observing the noisy class. He turned his head elsewhere, annoyed. The girl was also a princess. He turned to her and said, "Now I can walk on my own." "Thanks." He stood tall and introduced himself. "My name is Al Thal. I am a member of the disciplinary committee, son of 2 great wizards, an ordinary older brother, and now your new professor." The upperclassmen shouted insults. "Get lost. What can a first year like you teach us?" "What a joke. I'll have to file a complaint." He covered one ear and looked down at his pet. "At least they seem energetic." He pondered aloud. "Do you think if Headmistress Goodski or another professor had come with me, things would be different?" She must have planned it all. Suddenly, a tall student approached, and Altho sternly asked, "What do you think you're doing?" "I just suddenly wanted to become a professor. I just need to do what you did." Knock the professor down a peg. The crowd above cheered to show who was strongest. "Go to Leicester and kick his ass. Show him what a second year can do," he arrogantly suggested. "Hurry up and call me professor." Although sat down. "Headmistress Goodski forgot to send me any official documents. But whether I like it or not, I will teach this class. If anyone has a problem with that, feel free to leave. I won't stop you. In fact, I'll even allow you to join another class if you want. However, if you're curious why a kid like me, still injured, became a professor at the prestigious Dicketon Academy of Magic, I encourage you to stay and learn." Looking back at the boy from earlier, he asked, "How long do you plan to stand there? Either leave this room or go back to your seat. Your choice." He promptly stood up. "Yes, sir." Although glanced at the students, who sat quietly and seriously, not daring to discuss anything further. "Looks like our class is full today. Let's begin. Since this is a mana manipulation practical class, I'll ask a practical question. What's the best way to harness mana from the surrounding air?" As they discussed the question, "Do you know what I think?" A hand went up, over there, with the ponytail. She stood up and replied, "A mage will effectively manipulate mana by absorbing the naturally occurring mana in the air into their mana core, where mana is condensed and purified, ready to be unleashed during incantations or combat techniques. As everyone knows, the difference between enhancement mages and spellcaster mages lies in how enhancement mages primarily use mana absorbed into their core through their mana stream, while spellcaster mages directly use mana from the surrounding air, based on their mana circuits. So why in both types of mages meditate and absorb mana, while enhancement mages mainly use the mana they absorb into their cores? They are discussing to find the answer, and the ponytail girl continues to raise her hand to answer. That's because even though spellcaster mages rarely blend mana into physical attack strikes, they still need to use their own mana to manipulate external mana, demonstrating their mastery. Yes, what spellcaster mages essentially do is utilize the mana they harmonize with through their unique incantations to compel mana from the outside environment to obey them. Therefore, if spellcaster mages inherently use less mana in their incantations than enhancement mages, does the color of mana core possessed by a mage truly accurately assess their level of ability? People murmured and gave various opinions. Isn't that right? So why not evaluate it that way? How should it be evaluated? All chuckled and said, while everyone is thinking, I need 6 volunteers under pressure. The elements move down here and stand in line next to me. Spellcaster mages will stand on the left, and enhancement mages will stand on the right of me, and 6 people have moved down.